crates and bags of soil, fresh tomatoes, crisp lettuce, and our very own herbs. No more paying $3 for a sprig of parsley. I don't know, Johnny, Jack said, eyeing the latter. Mr. Roper isn't exactly the green thumb type. He's more of a brown thumb, as in he turns everything into a muddy mess. He doesn't have to know, Shauna whispered. It's a secret garden, like the book, only with more fertilizer. For 3 days, they hauled soil and seedlings up to the roof. Chrissy was in charge of watering, which usually meant she ended up spraying Jack whenever he wasn't looking. Everything was going perfectly until Stanley Roper decided that the building's TV antenna needed adjusting. The trio was on the roof, admiring their first sprouts of basil, when the metal door creaked open. "Hide!" Shauna hissed. They dove behind a row of crates, huddled together like refugees. They watched as Stanley wandered onto the roof, wearing his usual disgruntled expression. "Stupid antenna," Stanley grumbled, shaking the metal pole, probably full of seagulls. He turned around and stopped dead. He saw the crates. He saw the bags of soil. He saw a rogue tomato plant that was already 3 feet tall. What in the... Stanley walked over and poked a crate. "Helen, come up here. We've got squatters." Helen appeared, looking delighted. "Oh, Stanley, look, vegetables. Finally, something healthy in this building." "Squatters?" Stanley yelled. "I bet it's those kids upstairs, trying to turn my roof into a farm. I'll have them evicted for unauthorized agriculture." Suddenly, Chrissy sneezed. Stanley froze. He walked over to the crates and pulled them aside, revealing the 3 roommates huddled on the floor. "Aha!" Stanley shouted. "The Green Gang. What do you think you're doing with my roof?" "Mr. Roper, we can explain," Shauna said, standing up and brushing dirt off her jeans. "It's a beautification project. We're increasing the property value by growing weeds." Stanley scoffed. "They aren't weeds, Stanley," Helen said, picking a leaf of basil and smelling it. "It's herbs. Think of the savings. We won't have to buy groceries ever again." "I don't care about basil," Stanley cried. "This roof wasn't meant for dirt. It's meant for, well, for holding up the sky." "Mr. Roper," Jack said, his mind racing, "we were actually growing these for you, a token of our appreciation for being such a generous landlord." Stanley paused. "For me?" "Yes," Jack lied smoothly. "We noticed how much you love, fresh produce. We wanted to surprise you with a Roper's rooftop ratatouille kit." Stanley looked at the plants. He looked at Helen. Then he looked at the tomato plant, which was indeed very impressive. "Well," Stanley grumbled, "I suppose as long as you don't use too much water, and I get the first tomato, a big one, it's a deal." Johnny beamed. As the Ropers headed back downstairs, Jack wiped sweat from his brow. "Johnny, remind me, why did we move into a building with a landlord who hates nature?" "Because the rent is cheap." Jack, Johnny sighed. and because we're too clumsy to live anywhere with stairs. Chapter 15, The Flea Market Find. The following Saturday, the morning sun broke through the coastal fog, promising a perfect day for a bargain hunt. Jack had convinced Jana and Chrissy that the local flea market was their best chance at replacing the mismatched kitchen chairs that were currently held together by little more than hope and duct tape. I'm telling you, Jack said, steering them toward a stall overflowing with antique lamps and velvet paintings of bullfighters. The key is the vibe. You don't look at the dirt. You look at the potential. My potential is currently at 0 until I get some coffee. Jana grumbled, sidestepping a stack of National Geographics from 1954. Chrissy, however, was in her element. She moved through the stalls like a kid in a candy store, her eyes lighting up at every shiny object. Oh, look at this, Jack. It's a giant ceramic pineapple. That's a cookie jar, Chrissy, Jack said, examining a lopsided oak chair. And we need a place to sit, not a place to hide Oreos. After 2 hours of searching, they found it. A solid, mahogany-colored dining set with matching chairs. It was elegant, timeless, and surprisingly cheap. $50? Jana whispered, suspicious. There has to be a catch. Is it haunted? Does it collapse if you eat something heavier than a salad? The owner just wants it gone, Jack said, already reaching for his wallet. He said he's moving to Hawaii and can't fit it on the surfboard. They hauled the set home, and Larry's van, which, as usual, smelled faintly of burnt rubber and cheap cologne. By evening, the new set was proudly installed in apartment 201. It looks professional, Jana said, admiring the way the wood glowed under the light. I feel like we should be hosting a diplomat instead of eating frozen burritos. But the diplomatic feeling lasted exactly 10 minutes. Jack sat down to enjoy his dinner, and as he shifted his weight, the chair let out a long, agonizing creak. Suddenly, the seat dropped 3 inches, and Jack found himself pinned between the table and the frame. Jack, are you okay? Chrissy cried. I'm fine, Jack muffled, his nose inches from his plate. I think this chair was designed for people who don't have bodies. I knew it, Jana sighed. It's not mahogany. It's balsa wood painted to look like a tree. Just then, Stanley Roper knocked and walked in, holding a screwdriver. I heard a crash. What are you doing now? Demolishing the place. We got a new table, Mr. Roper, Chrissy chirped. Stanley walked over and poked the table. The whole thing wobbled like a bowl of jello. You call this furniture? My Aunt Mildred's dentures are sturdier than this. It's an antique, Jack insisted, finally freeing himself. It's a fire hazard, Stanley grunted. Tell you what, I've got some old metal chairs in the basement. They're ugly, they're uncomfortable, and they'll outlive all of us. $10. Jack looked at his mahogany ruin and then at Stanley's smug face. Make it $5, and you throw in a cushion. Deal, Stanley grinned. And Jack, try not to break them. They're heavier than they look. Chapter 16, The Night of the Overcooked Roast. The air in Santa Monica had turned chilly, and Jack